Welcome back to Kleppers Corner, Today in History. Today we're taking a stroll through January 19th, a day that apparently looked at the calendar and said, yes, I will contain literally every category of human experience. War, science, political drama, cultural icons, and even divine bathing rituals in frozen rivers. It's a date that really tries to do it all. If January 19th were a person, it would be that overachiever in high school who played 3 sports, edited the yearbook, and still somehow had time to ruin the grading curve for everyone else. So let's jump into the chronological chaos. Segment 1, Medieval and Imperial Conflict. January 19th kicks off its long resume of conflict with the Siege of Rouen in 1419. A moment in the 100 Years' War when King Henry V showed up and said, "Bonjour, Normandy, I'm here to starve you into submission." And Rouen responded, "We prefer a more collaborative work environment." But Henry was not in a collaborative mood. He was in his, I want the French throne, and also I haven't invented indoor heating yet, so everything makes me cranky era. He surrounded the city, blocked the Seine, and used famine like it was a medieval DoorDash cancellation. Things got so bleak that Rouen expelled 12,000 civilians, the useless mouths, which is a phrase that tells you therapy was definitely not a thing in the 1400s. Henry refused to let those 12,000 people through. And when your military strategy includes, let's create a large human sandwich between walls and a blockade, that's when you know history books are not going to describe you as fun. Yet the city falls. Norman power collapses, Henry packs himself on the back, and then, like every historical conqueror, he dies 2 years later of dysentery, which is history's way of saying, calm down, you're not that impressive. Meanwhile, over in 649, the Tang dynasty launches its own January 19th special with the surrender of the kingdom of Kucha. Emperor Taizong wanted control of the Silk Road, because if history teaches us anything, it's that humans will fight over trade routes the same way modern people will fight over charging ports at the airport. General Ashina Shir leads the charge, wins the siege of Aksu, and boom, another ancient civilization gets folded into a global empire like a Central Asian Costco acquisition. Segment 2, Modern Warfare and the World Wars. Fast forward to the American Civil War, where January 19, 1862 gives us the Battle of Mill Springs, the first major Union victory in the Western theater. It's fought in fog, rain, and mud so thick you could probably age cheese in it. Confederate General Zollicoffer famously rides up in a white raincoat, mistakes Union troops for his own, and is promptly shot, which really illustrates the Civil War's inspiring motto. Maybe visibility is important. The Confederates retreat across the Cumberland River, abandoning cannons, wagons, wounded soldiers, and possibly their dignity. Lincoln, meanwhile, takes this win and goes, finally, something that isn't a disaster. Then January 19th takes a wild turn into aerial horror, with the first Zeppelin bombing of Britain in 1915. Germany says, we're going to try air power, and Britain says, air what? Suddenly, these giant floating gas blimps drift over Great Yarmouth like angry parade balloons and drop bombs that kill civilians. It's terrifying, it's unprecedented, and it's basically the moment the skies go from, look, clouds, to, look, explosive death machines. 2 years later, on the same date, London's Silvertown district explodes. Literally, when 50 tons of TNT ignite at a munitions plant. The blast is so powerful, windows shatter in central London, and a gas holder erupts into a fireball the size of a Michael Bay audition reel. Officials immediately blame sabotage, because when something explodes in a war, it's either sabotage or someone saying safety guidelines are merely a suggestion. Then, in 1942, Japan invades Burma on January 19th. British commanders insist tanks can't move through Burmese jungle. Japan responds by moving tanks through the Burmese jungle. The British retreat, China's supply line collapses, and Japan successfully kicks off what historians call a logistical nightmare with extra humidity. January 19th, you, yes you, are exhausting. Segment 3, Engines of progress, innovation, and mild tech doom. But then January 19th softens a little and gives us something fun, like James Watt being born in 1736. Watt sees a Newcomen engine and goes, "This is wildly inefficient. Let's add science." He invents the separate condenser, kicks off the Industrial Revolution, and humanity eventually ends up with trains, factories, and TikTok. So, depending on your view of society, this is either a triumph or a cosmic mistake. Speaking of inventions that reshape culture, on January 19th, 1915, George Claude receives the patent for the neon light. This single moment leads to Times Square, Vegas, and every late-night taco shop with a glowing open sign that flickers like it's haunted by a ghost who really wants burritos. Then, in 1983, Apple releases the Lisa, a computer so innovative it was basically a time traveler from 1995 dropped into the Reagan era. It had windows, icons, a mouse, and a price tag of $9,995, which even today screams, "This device is for the kind of person who owns a yacht and names it after their cat." The Lisa fails commercially, but gives birth to the Macintosh, proving once again that sometimes the first pancake is burnt, but still necessary. And finally, January 19th gives us the 2038 problem, the impending doom of 32-bit timekeeping. On this date in 2038, some computers will think it's suddenly 1901. Imagine your car, your microwave, or your hospital software waking up and going, "Where's Queen Victoria? Why is everything wireless? Who stole my horse?" It's Y2K, but with more math and less charisma. And embedded systems, satellites, machinery may still be ticking toward that glitch, which means humanity has roughly 12 years to fix it, or just hope gravity does us a favor. Segment 4, political upheaval and human rights. January 19th specializes in political drama. It's basically the Real Housewives of recorded dates. Take 1966, when Indira Gandhi becomes leader of India's Congress Party. Party bosses pick her because they think she'll be easy to manipulate. Spoiler, she is not. She consolidates power, reshapes the nation, wins a war, nationalizes banks, and turns the Gungi Gudia label into the political equivalent of Hold My Tea. It's an era defined by transformative policy, and also the darker shadow of the emergency, proving that even groundbreaking leaders are not immune to authoritarian detours. Then, in 2007, journalist Hrant Dink is assassinated in Istanbul, sparking national outrage. More than 100,000 march in the streets, holding signs saying, "We are all Hrant Dink." It's a gut-punch reminder that speech, identity, and truth-telling still carry mortal risk in too many parts of the world. And the investigations reveal police complicity, which is always the worst plot twist, when the group supposed to protect you shows up in the credits labeled co-conspirator number 3. America also gets its share of January 19th plot points. In 1920, the U.S. Senate rejects the League of Nations because cooperation is weird and America prefers to go it alone, like that guy who insists on assembling IKEA furniture without reading the instructions. Then, in 1981, the Algiers Accords end the Iran hostage crisis, with the hostages released literally minutes after Reagan's inauguration, which is the diplomatic equivalent of Iran saying to Jimmy Carter, "We're not mad, we're just disappointed," and also extremely petty. Segment 5, cultural icons born on January 19th. Now we move into the cultural segment, the "wait, all these people have the same birthday" portion of the show. Edgar Allan Poe, born this day in 1809, the patron saint of moodiness. Poe basically shaped the entire horror genre and created the modern detective story because he looked at literature and said, what if everything were spooky and sad and brilliant? His unity of effect theory insisted that every word must contribute to the emotional impact, something modern horror writers agree with, except for the ones who keep adding clowns for no reason. In 1829, Faust Part 1 premieres. Goethe's masterpiece of ambition, knowledge, temptation. Basically, the original, what if a man makes a morally questionable deal to achieve greatness story, predating college football recruiting by centuries. Then in 1953, America gathers around the television for Lucy Goes to the Hospital. The I Love Lucy episode synced with Lucille Ball's real-life pregnancy. It draws 44 million viewers, which is more than the population of Spain at the time. They couldn't say the word pregnant, but they could show Ricky Ricardo having a meltdown every time Lucy hiccuped. Television has always had priorities. We also get Cézanne, the painter who shaped modern art, Janis Joplin, who shaped modern screams, and Dolly Parton, who shaped modern joy. Dolly was born this day in 1946 and has been carrying the nation on her rhinestone-covered shoulders ever since. She writes songs, builds libraries, funds vaccines, and somehow remains unproblematic, which in celebrity culture is like being a unicorn riding a second unicorn. Segment 6, Weather, Ritual, and the Wonderfully Strange. And finally, January 19th delivers a meteorological miracle in 1977. Snow falls in Miami. Actual snow. People walk outside and go, "Is this ash? Did a flamingo explode?" Floridians who had never seen frozen water falling from the sky reacted with the appropriate amount of panic, which is to say, all of it. Farmers lost $350 million in crops. But local kids gained a lifelong story that begins with, "You won't believe this, but..." Then we have Timkat in Ethiopia, a beautiful celebration where replicas of the Ark of the Covenant are paraded to water for mass baptism. It's vibrant, sacred, and nothing like Theophany in Russia, where people cut cross-shaped holes in frozen rivers and plunge themselves in like spiritual polar bears proving a point. It's the only religious ritual where the priest might say, "May God bless you, and please try not to get hypothermia." And Texas observes Confederate Heroes Day, honoring figures whose historical resumes range from controversial to, "Let's just remove this statue before someone removes it with a truck." This holiday remains a cultural flashpoint, which is Texas's brand, doing things loudly and making sure everyone has an opinion about it. In conclusion, January 19th is less a date and more a cosmic variety pack. War, invention, politics, art, weather anomalies, religious festivals, and Dolly Parton. If you pitch this lineup as a Netflix series, they'd tell you to reduce the number of plot lines. But history doesn't reduce. It stacks. It overlaps. It builds a mosaic out of everything from medieval famine to glowing neon to singing icons with big hair and bigger hearts. And that's why we keep coming back to these dates, because each one reminds us that humanity is messy, brilliant, violent, joyous, destructive, creative, and always, always capable of transformation. January 19th. Thanks for the chaos. We'll see you tomorrow.